Breakups. Most people who go through this transitional period of seeing someone to no longer seeing that person tend to not think logically. And of course, rightfully so. This is a very emotionally charged time where a lot can go wrong. And if it's not handled well, you might find yourself having more things that are regretful at the end of that transition. Welcome. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Evans-Claude Sabbi, and on this channel we talk about dating, relationship, and how to navigate the world of romantic relationships, which can be tricky sometimes. So let's get into today's video. There's a number floating out there which is 70 to 85% of relationships end within a year. And those that get to go past that 1 year milestone, 70% of them tend to be people who just stay too long in a relationship that's no longer fulfilling. From that particular perspective, it's kind of inevitable that breakups will happen. If this is something that almost all of us are going to experience at some point in our dating and relationship lives, I think it's important to learn how to navigate this phase of relationships so that it has very little negative effects in our lives. Now, you might be going through a breakup or have gone through a breakup or are in a happy relationship. I think you'll find value in this video in one way or another. With that out of the way, let's explore these 5 mistakes to avoid when you're going through a breakup so that this phase of your life happens as gracefully as possible. The first mistake I want to highlight here is getting in another relationship right after a breakup. This is sometimes referred to as rebound relationships, and we mostly do this so as to avoid having to deal with the grief, with the loneliness, with the sadness that comes with ending a relationship. I have been guilty of that in the past where I had ended a 2-year relationship, which at the time that was my longest relationship, and I decided to throw myself right into dating other people. For me, it was not for a relationship specifically, it was mainly for sexual connections. The whole mentality of the best way to get over somebody else is by getting under another person can really backfire on you. For me, that included things like psychological erectile dysfunction. That is a topic that I've talked about in the past. I'll link a video somewhere around here. I'm not sure where these links end up being, but take your time to process the emotions that come with ending a relationship. It could be grief, it could be hurt, it could be fear, loneliness, sadness. All that will take time to get processed. But what I did and what most people end up doing is saying, that is too hard for me to deal with right now. So I'm going to connect myself sexually to somebody else or to multiple people or to get in a relationship with somebody else so that I don't have to deal with this. Things don't work out that way, and it will definitely backfire on you in a way that you will not like. The best people who can help you during this juncture or during this transition after a breakup is friends and family members. I would say you can even go to a therapist if you have access to one, because those are people who will sit there, who will listen, who will allow you to talk and process these emotions so that they can dissipate at some point, something we're going to talk about later on in this video as well. The second mistake to avoid is wanting to be friends with your ex. I'm a big fan of ending relationships amicably, but that doesn't mean you need to be besties after a breakup. The real reason why some people opt to stay friends with their exes is because one of them is secretly hoping that they would be able to rekindle the relationship that they have just lost. And to be frank with you, that tactic actually works. For most of the couples who get back together, it's only to find themselves back in that unfulfilling relationship that they had just ended, and they end up breaking up again a few months later for the same reasons that they had broken up the first time. Oftentimes, the second breakup happens to be even messier. My best advice in this scenario is to create distance so that you can take time and space to heal. The reason why you should want to be friends with your ex or hang out with them is the same reason why an alcoholic doesn't or should not be hanging out around bars. If you happen to have kids together, aim to be great co-parents, but you should not look at spending more time as friends or trying to go on vacations or dinner dates just because you want to keep that relationship close. That will stop both of you from moving on past that breakup. It could be you not being able to see opportunities that come up for people you can end up connecting with sexually or romantically. And the same happens to your ex, where now she cannot get into another relationship because you are just hanging around there and not going anywhere. So create that distance and space and time for both of you to move on. If you have kids, try to be great co-parents so that your kids can learn what a stable and healthy relationship can be, even if parents are not together. There is a reason that person is your ex, and you should respect that reason. It doesn't matter if they have the best titties in the world or if the sex is the best you've ever had. Walk away. The third mistake that I see happening after a breakup is denying the part that you played in that relationship falling apart. There are a lot of reasons as to why relationships don't work out. It could be infidelity, money, neglect, emotional abuse, physical abuse, you name it. And we, as human beings in society, like to have someone to blame for things not working out. It could be the government, your relationship, your company, whatnot. We like pinpointing the person who caused everything to go down. What we fail to realize is there are nuances. Everybody played a part in things working out or not working out if it ends up in a breakup. Even if you're the one who happens to have been cheated on in this instance, it's very likely that this man or woman showed you these untrustworthy traits that they have early on in the relationship, but you chose to ignore them. However, it reaches a time when you can no longer ignore them. You see this all the time in society where a woman cheats on a man to be with you, and then you justify her actions by saying she will never do that to me. Of course, at some point, she does the same thing to you, and you find yourself devastated asking, how could I not see this coming? This person showed you from the beginning that they're not to be trusted. They do not value relationships. They do not value emotional vulnerability, maybe the same way as you do, but you thought things were going to be different. So when relationships fall apart for whatever reason, the cause for things not working has to do with both people. And the sooner you understand that, take ownership and take responsibility for the part that you played, it becomes easier for you to grow as a man, as a woman, and realize that these traits that were shown to me early on, I chose to ignore them. So from now onwards, whoever I allow in my life emotionally in this vulnerable space, I will be mindful to make sure they don't have these traits. It's not for you to block yourself emotionally, but for you to understand all these nuances, all these traits that people bring in life will have a consequence. If not now, early on in the relationship, it will happen months or years later. Try to be the one who finds the lessons in things not working out and taking responsibility for the part you played so that those things don't repeat themselves in the future. And no one gets anywhere trying to employ a victim mentality when things don't work out for them. The fourth mistake to avoid is numbing your emotions. I recall after having ended one of my relationships, a week or so later, I went skydiving. The whole skydiving experience was exhilarating, but there was a part of that was not me. Part of that was me just wanting and seeking the thrill of being young and wanting to feel alive. But a good chunk of that was also because I was trying to avoid the sadness. I did not know what to do with it. I had just ended a relationship and I did not want to sit there with my sorrow for everybody else to see. So I decided to numb this with some thrill-seeking activities like skydiving. Of course, that never really solved my sadness and I had to deal with the emotions that came with ending that relationship, but not many people get to that realization before it's too late. Some people will bury themselves in their work so that they don't have to think about a relationship that just ended or have to feel those emotions. Others tend to gravitate towards drugs or just guzzling alcohol in a way that's not healthy, where you're toxifying your body. Emotions are real. Emotions carry energy. And when you neglect them, when you go through these really emotionally charged times in your life, like going through a breakup, and you choose not to work on those emotions, not to acknowledge them, they build up in your body as tension. And at some point, they will come out in ways that are destructive, either in your future relationships or in other areas of your life like work and other things that are meaningful. So instead of you neglecting these emotions and pushing them down the road where they could explode in ways that you have no idea what that's going to look like, take time to sit with yourself. Acknowledge we are all human beings. That's part of being alive. That's part of loving. It's a privilege that I know a breakup is not really a privilege, but to me, I look at that as I actually feel something for someone. Not everybody gets a chance to do that. You feeling lonely, feeling sad, feeling heartbroken means that you're a human being. You get affected by somebody else. You were able to connect to somebody else in a meaningful and deep way. And now that has ended, you have to process that so that you can move on. The fifth and last mistake to avoid is stalking your ex to compare the current situation with what you two had. I'm sure you've heard the expression that goes, comparison is the thief of joy. The joy of being single is now you have the opportunity to work on yourself, to become the person that you'll be proud of. Often there's this innate need to want to know how your ex is doing and secretly hoping that they're doing worse than you. And if you feel like they're doing better than you, how dare they? Inconsiderate pricks, right? Or as someone I know once said, I'm humble enough to know that I'm replaceable, but cocky enough to know whoever you're going to replace me with is going to be a downgrade. There is often this innate need to want to one-up the person that you've just been with. Or if they've got in a relationship, to see how good is the person that ended up being with. Are they better than you in any way? Are they taller than you? Are they more muscular? Are they smarter? Do they have a better job? And things like that. But the more you do that, the more you're stealing from yourself. Stalking your ex on social media or anywhere else is wasteful in a couple main reasons. A, what you're probably going to see there is not a true representation of how they're actually feeling. They're probably going through their own emotions, which are not good at that point if they've just gone through a breakup, because nobody really fares well after a breakup. Breakups are terrible for whoever is involved in them. And B, doing so, stalking your ex, that is taking away the time and effort that you could have put into working on yourself, into becoming a better person, so that you walk out of that breakup wiser, so that you walk out of that breakup being a better man or a better woman, so that you can show up in the next relationship a more complete person, if you will. I will conclude this video by quoting one of my favorite authors, Stephen Covey. And let me just read from this right now. Between what happens to us and our response is a space. And the key to our growth and happiness is how we use that space. Breakup is what happens to us. Jumping in another relationship, not taking ownership of the part we played, numbing your emotions, stalking your ex, and whatnot. There is a pause between the breakup happening and you taking these actions. And within that pause, all I'm asking you to do is choose wisely and avoid these 5 mistakes that we have just talked about. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you like these videos, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to me. It allows me to get these videos to more people, and it makes me feel good knowing that a lot of you are finding value in it. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you guys in another one.